All right, everybody, welcome to the Digital Influence Show this morning. We are recording this live on Friday, June 10th, and hopefully our live audience from LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and wherever else it's going. Welcome, everybody, and our recorded audience on the YouTube channel and on podcast. Welcome to the Digital Influence Show. Hey, today we took a little bit of a break from going in just to the one topic, one interview. But we are having a topic today around what's new, what's thriving, what's different, what should people know, and what should people be talking about when it comes to social media and digital influence. And I have Tom Burton and Susan Berger with me. Susan, would you please introduce yourself and let everyone know a little bit about Socially Susan?
Hi, so I'm Susan Berger, and I help individuals and organizations establish and broaden their social presence and brand on LinkedIn. And I spent
Excellent.
21 years at SAS. It's a advanced analytics technology company, and took early retirement so that I could focus on this full time.
And your hashtag Socially Susan.
Socially Susan Berger. That's me.
That's it. There you go. And Tom Burton, you are with us as well. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I'm the co-founder and COO of a tech company called Lead Smart Technologies. I also recently wrote and released a new book in the space called The Revenue Zone. So my software company is,
Ooh.
Oh, wait, there you go. And as you know, as we know, or as you know, I'm a little bit newer to the social scene. So I'm learning and, kind of trying to share what I'm learning as I go along here and as I go from kind of nothing to something in the social world. And I don't have a nifty name like Social Susan. So I got to come up with something like that.
And Socially Susan Berger there.
We can help you with that.
You need a personal hashtag.
Yeah, I knew that's my next step. That's the next step I need to do on this journey.
And let's come back to that, Susan. I think that would be a great topic for everybody as well. But Tom, you're a self-proclaimed neophyte in this. And you have written a book on the revenue zone. And no offense, but like me, you got gray in your beard, so you've been around for a little while, more than a few weeks.
Yes.
What I love about your story and why I was so glad to have you join us today is you've been in sales a long time. You've been building companies. You've done sales in a variety of different ways over a 25-year plus career. And now you're moving into digital and you have been coming up with a lot of these ahas. And I think those are so important for people to understand because there's still a lot of, I believe there's still a lot of, oh yeah, I tried social selling, it didn't work. Or 6 years ago, we had a LinkedIn expert come in for a one-day event and it didn't do anything. Let's just go back to the basics. And so I would love for you to share a little bit of what have been your aha moments over the last, say, month or so.
Yeah, and we talked on the podcast a month or so ago on this as well. So I won't revisit all of that stuff, but what I've learned recently, certainly, and I think we talked a little bit about this, last time. I've learned that this is definitely a journey. It's not an event. And I think a lot of people that call it a failure consider it an event, and that event for whatever reason doesn't work, or that it doesn't work. And it's definitely a journey. My biggest takeaway over the last month in my journey, and this journey has been going on for me about 6 months. So I'm about 6 months into this since the beginning of the year, is how important it is to have an objective and a goal of what you're trying to accomplish with your digital influence, with your social selling strategy, all of that kind of stuff. I know when I started out, it was a bit of a spray and pray, right? Let's, kind of see what happens here and what kind of results I can get and what kind of reach and influence, so to speak, you can create. And I don't think there's actually anything wrong with that in the early stages, because it helps you get your sea legs, if you will, on the whole thing here. But as you move along and, as right, this does take time. It takes energy. It takes attention. So you want that to be kind of, channeled into something that's actually going to achieve what you want to achieve. And that goal and objective is really kind of hit me over the head over the last month. Is like, okay, I got to really hone in on that goal and objective. And then my plan has to align to that. So that's my biggest takeaway from the last 30 days.
Yeah. And that have a plan, I think leads to, I had a message from somebody this morning in Slack on one of my, sales network communities. And I was asking questions about people's perception of social for booking meetings. And I got a pretty long, good answer. And it was basically, number one, it was social is a long-term solution. This was their perception. Number two is they weren't actually doing it, even though they thought it was a good idea. Number three was the higher up the AEs, people that have been more longer in their careers are the ones that are doing it and having success. But younger generations see it as too long of a strategy to actually implement. And that's what I did. I'm all, it's really good to know that that's the perception. But what do you both think about that before I share my very strong opinion on that? What do you think about that? Is it a short term? Is it a long term? Is it both? Susan?
Well, I think it is. I don't want to call it long term. It's ongoing, right? It has to be integrated into your selling or your influencing or your expert strategy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the good thing about it is that you will see results almost immediately, right? It's not like you got to take a 12-week course and then you hope to see some results. If you start to post content and if you start to engage on people's posts and if you start to reach out to people with synergy and not trying to shove your selling or whatever you're trying to do down their throats, you're going to see benefits and results immediately, but it's not ongoing. It is part of the fabric of the role, whether you're in sales or an influencer or an expert. That's my feeling.
Tom, what are your thoughts?
No, I agree. It's a perpetual thing, right? It's not even a short term or a long term project. It's an ongoing project and I wish, in hindsight, I wish I would have started a lot earlier in my career, taking it seriously, right? As I said in the last time, I've had a LinkedIn account for years and I have a lot of followers, but they were or connections, but they were friends and family. They weren't really built to accomplish something from a business perspective. So, and going back to what you said about younger person, if I was talking to somebody coming out of college, I would say or even in college, right? Or one of the very first things you should work on is your social digital influence strategy for yourself. Even if you're going to just go get a job, right? It doesn't matter what you want to do. Go figure that out and build that. It's like, it's great to have a resume, but start working on your digital strategy, your digital influence piece and start building on that. I mean, gosh, think about that. If you come out of college at 20 or 21 or 22 and where you can be in 5, 6, 8 years by the time you're 30 in terms of where you're trying to accomplish on your career, it'd be like, wow,
Well, and I have clients that are graduating from college, that have just graduated from college. And that's what we work on, starting and really building a robust profile, starting on good habits of commenting and posting and building their brand the right way from the beginning. And I present to several university classes each semester, and we talk right about that. Start early and just build it into your working habits and life, and you will be grateful and you will see results.
Yeah, it's build it into the DNA of your career. Don't look at it as a project because it's not
That's
a project with it. Hey, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to stop it. It's just an ongoing piece of what you're doing.
Yeah. And I want to address what I like about this question is addressing and taking head on the misperception, in my opinion, that social is only a long-term strategy, specifically for salespeople. Yes, it's about brand building. Yes, it's ongoing. Yes, it's something you should be doing your entire career, just like you should always be networking and growing your network. That's what we do, right? But from a very specific salespeople who are struggling with, oh, look at that. There's Rob. Hey, Rob, thanks for joining us. And I'm going to come back to that here in a second, Rob, but because I can't multitask. Yeah, Tom knows that. I called him John earlier today because I was multitasking. But from a sales perspective, salespeople who are under the gun for knocking out their activities, for hitting their weekly numbers, hitting their monthly numbers, closing the right amount of deals, booking the right amount of meetings, they immediately think this is something they'll do later because it doesn't help them right now. And for me, that is a complete misperception of social. When you're using it targeting with a targeted prospect, when you're going and commenting with the people that you want to book meetings with, it moves you quicker from being this cold and unknown person who's trying to pound a door with calls and emails to get their attention to becoming familiar, recognized, maybe even known, and maybe even start moving into that known, like, and trusted realm because they see you and they hear you commenting, posting, and active in their digital network. I think that gets lost way too often with people when they think of social as just being a long-term strategy. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree. Even going back to my book, The Revenue Zone, right? What I talk about is to be in the revenue zone, you have two jobs, right? You have two jobs as a sales or a marketing professional, is to create demand for your product or service and build trust, right? If you can create demand and you can build trust and you have prospects that are in the revenue zone that are serious, will seriously consider spending money with your business.
Yeah.
If I'm a salesperson, what other job do I have other than to create demand and build trust and get my prospects into that revenue zone that I just talked about? What easier way, honestly, is there to do that than using social? It's hard. I mean, it's hard to create demand and it's hard to build trust, especially with all the noise. So let your social in your profile and your online presence help you, give you a tailwind for that, right? Give you a spotlight on those things and give you a head start. And so to me, it's like, why work harder than I have to,
Right.
to accomplish to getting those people there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for my part, I think it's time, right? Time is finite. Resources are finite. So LinkedIn is a tool, right? It's a tool. You learn how to use the feature function if you have regular LinkedIn or Sales Navigator, which is the paid part, right? But it's not that simple. It's not just having a tool. It's really learning how to message people and post around your knowledge and your expertise in the problems that your target customers are facing, right? Because they don't have all the answers. That's why they're looking for you. So there are tools, but I think that in my history and with my clients, they get too dug in the tool. The tool is supposed to be the answer, and it's not the answer.
Right.
It helps you execute, but you still have to learn the strategies and the ways to execute. And that's where people get stuck.
Yeah, and it's I like to bring back that analogy of the phone is a great tool. But once you dial it, if you don't say anything or you say something wrong or stupid or talk too much or say the wrong things, that tool doesn't work. And the same with email cadences, right? The technology sends them out at the right time to the right people. But if your messaging is off, it's not working. But for some reason, when it comes to social, it's really easy for people to go, yeah, it doesn't work. It's like, no, your strategy, your methodology, the activities you did were not appropriate for the medium. And that's why it didn't work.
Well, I just wrote a post on this yesterday about how a lot of corporations are using these platforms where they store assets and articles and everything, and then with a push of a button, their employees can post, right? Um, but they post, but they don't talk about why it resonated, their story about how it helps customers or whatever. It's just, and to them that says, oh, I post, but I fail. I don't get any
Right.
feedback or whatever.
Posting doesn't work. Yeah. Tom, what do you think about that? Especially because you started off this conversation saying it's about having an objective, not just to spray and pray.
Yeah, no, it can't be an automatic robotic thing, right? And that's where a lot of times we try and, right, hey, I'm an engineer too, right? I love technology. So we're always looking for things that are, how to automate and how to make things, that's sexy, right? And all these different things there. And certainly tools can obviously help, but you're right. It's in this game, it's how are you communicating? What are you communicating? And how are you using that to, as I said, create demand for whatever you're trying to create demand for, and build
Right.
trust with whoever you're trying to build trust with. And if you don't look at that, if you try and get too automatic and too robotic and too, well, I have this system and it automatically posted, people know that. It's like, it's like getting the robocall from your, the tele,
Mhm.
where it's a robocall. It's the same concept. It's not going to really accomplish anything.
Yeah. Rob's going at it again
I love
today.
that,
I love
Rob.
it, Rob. Yeah.
Well, I think that there are things that, the basics, right? Posting content that is really toward your target market and knowing what challenges are they really facing, right? What challenges are they really facing? One of the things that I've seen over the past couple months is, well, I don't need to focus on social as much because we're starting to do in-person events. We're starting to get back face to face.
Yeah.
To me, that's dangerous because you have to continue with your social brand and your social presence. And like I said before, time is finite. Salespeople have a lot of administrative tasks they have to do. They have forecasting, they've got their CRM systems. And so social brand execution kind of gets pushed down the list of priorities.
And
And I think
why
that's a
do we think
mistake
that is? Yeah. So why does it get pushed down? I agree with you.
because I don't see corporate buy-in around real social execution that, of course, you and I feel should be there.
Okay. And again, I'm going to push back. Why?
Well, I'll add something to
Yeah,
that because you said something really interesting, Susan, about the in-person events. And when you said that, what that triggered for me is what they're confusing is lead generation and social influence, right? Where people get excited about events is, okay, that has always been a lead generation channel for me. We get to go back to these events and get lead generation and potentially, build some sales that are there. This is, and don't get me started on lead generation in general. We can have a whole nother topic about that. But this is not about lead generation like, hey, I got 10 more names or 20 more names in my pipeline. This is about what I said earlier about how to, whatever leads or network that you have, however you get them, how are you building demand and building trust with those people that are there? So whether, in fact, if I'm going to events, I would say this is even more important to get mileage out of the events. It's even more important than to some of the other marketing activities. It's certainly not the alternative or the either or.
And tell why. Why do you say that? And I'm baiting you here to explain it, but why? Why do you say that the social is even more important when you're going to live events?
Well, again, you are meeting people at live events, right? You are, meeting new people. You are getting leads, if you want to call it that. What's the very first thing that, what do you do when you go to an event? You go to an event, you get the list of quote unquote leads from your booth. And then what do? You send thank you emails. Hey, great to meet you at the booth or whatever. Well, if the person takes the time to, open your email or even scan your business card or whatever, what's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to check you out. right? Who is this person? What's the company? What do they do? Is this somebody who I want to work with, or do I want to continue to have a conversation with, or whatever the case may be, right? I mean, the biggest issue with shows in particular is how do you keep that momentum going from the booth out once you leave the show? I mean, I always call it like show euphoria, right? Everybody is interested at the show, and then you leave and they never hear from them again. So how do you keep that momentum going is, to me, all part of this strategy. So that's why it's like,
well, and one of the features of LinkedIn that people don't know is when you're at an event, you can actually turn on your like sonar so that you can see LinkedIn members right around you. You turn on your Bluetooth and you turn on that, and then you can ask to connect, or when you're talking to someone, that puts them in your network. Now they can start reading your content. Now they can start seeing what people are commenting on your post. They're in your brand feed, right?
Yeah, and I'm gonna take a little time out here to pull in some of the people that are commenting on it. Rob, as usual, on here with us. Look how great our company is. Dude is a CEO person because no one cares, and that's still so much dominated. And sorry, I don't know who you are because you haven't given StreamYard permission, but LinkedIn user, preach it, Susan. Non-emphasis or money is spent on social strategies because people don't understand the value of it until it's too late.
Can I make a point here, Brandon, that you and I have spoken about before?
Yes.
If you look at a MarTech stack at a company, it's as long as your arm. You look at a sales tech stack and you've got LinkedIn, you may have, you've got your CRM, but a lot of companies, they don't have anything else. And their enablement, their onboarding enablement, when I hate to say it, but at the company I was at, I was limited in onboarding to 30 minutes. How do you talk about social engagement in 30 minutes?
Right.
So I truly believe that the C-suite and other people in the sales organization, leadership that should be sponsoring this enablement and the tools that support it are not doing it.
Yeah. And you know what, I want to shout out here to Tara joining us, and just re-emphasizing what Tom was saying. Where do people go if they meet us at an event? The first thing they do is they go look at you on LinkedIn. And I want to share this story because Travis, who has been a guest on my show, and he uses Funnel Amplified, but one of the things that he's doing that I love, and he's already experienced success, is that he has an event. It's his big annual event that's coming up in August. And he started in May with his list of prospects that he wanted to meet with. And he's using his social prospecting and his sharing content now in order to make sure that he gets FaceTime with the right people in August. Now, how is he doing it? He's using social to build his influence. He's using social to build his credibility, because those people that he wants to talk to, if Travis has been sharing content, engaging with posts that they engage with, they see him, they know him, they recognize him, and he's competing for their time versus the salesperson that's never talked to them before, and it's FaceTime, who's going to get that time, right? Travis, hands down.
Huge catalyst, right, for that show. I mean, that show will be way 1,000 times more valuable to him than somebody who didn't go through that exercise.
Yeah.
Well, and I think one of the things that I really stress is two things. Don't try to boil the ocean, right? You should know who your best target customers are, right? You should also not try to slam asking for a meeting. I can't tell you how many connect requests I get, or the minute I say I'll connect with them, right away I get back this form content email or message that wants to schedule time with me, and they're done. They're done. Yeah. The wall has just gone up. So take the time to build the relationship. Like we've talked about, you don't go to a cocktail party and say, hey, I want to sell you this widget. What do? Who are you? You learn a little bit. It's the same
Yeah.
thing.
This is one of the things that baffles me. The whole, we don't have time for social media. Okay, time out. Your prospect has taken time to write an about section on their LinkedIn profile about who they are. They are freely giving you information that you can use to connect with them. They're telling you where they went to school. They're telling you certifications they have. There's so much information there. Social isn't, oh, social media. Social is researching so that you can prospect better and connect with more people. If you just slow down, you move faster. Take the time. I want to go connect with somebody. The first thing I do is, what do I know about them? Like, let me phrase this, and then I'm going to stop talking for a little bit and hand it off to you guys. But in pre-internet days, when we had somebody we wanted to meet, what did we do? And we still do it now. But we'd find out of our connections who knew them, right? And then we'd start to find out about them. Do they like golf? Do they like bourbon? Do they like cigars? What do they do? We were trying to find ways that we could find commonality so that we could reach out to them with something in common. And it took a lot of time and effort. And now people just put it on the internet for us.
Yeah.
That's
No,
the
totally.
value of social.
Yeah. And you have way more data or insights, maybe not just data, but insights than you've ever had before. So, use it, right, to the best of your ability. And again, I think that comes back to the plan that I said earlier, knowing the goal, because when you look at that data, you can start to establish, okay, is this, because I don't want to bother you if you're not a right connection for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nor and vice versa, right? Neither of us want to waste our time if we're not a good fit, so it becomes even a qualification tool as well.
I think you have a somewhat unique perspective. I think there's an audience of people that have that perspective. Like, I don't want to waste your time. I want to pre-qualify. But I believe there's a lot of people that have more sales focus that are just spray and pray and don't really care. They're just hoping something, one of the hooks they throw out is going to get a nibble.
Yeah. Well, that, as I said, don't get me started on lead generation. It's like,
right.
Because, that's one of the reasons that, in my opinion, sales can be so hard, right? Sales is not an easy job, or marketing is not an easy job either. But I think we make it harder than it has to be by doing some of the things that you're just talking about, which is spray and pray. Well, I hope somebody responds, even though they're really not at all a candidate for what it is that I do or my company does, or whatever the case may be. Now, they may be somebody you want to know because of a influencer, or there could be another reason for you wanting to know them, and that's totally fine. But if you're looking at it through your sales lens and your revenue lens, you have to look at that from, okay, what's the right people to be going after?
Yeah. And again, we get back to the tool, right? And Rob, Rob's not a fan of LinkedIn from the comments per se, but again, the clients I help, it's okay, let's create efficiencies because your time is precious. So let's create saved searches that use all those powerful filters to target down to the right people, right? Let's set up some message cadences that talk about synergy when you go to connect. You're already going to their posts and liking and commenting so they get a taste of you. Now, when you reach out, let's start, I always say, reach out with synergy where we have similar interests and business interests in this. The second thing is just thank them for connecting if they do. And the third thing is let's start to educate them very gently around the value that you can bring to them, right? So their resistance, because you're not actively asking for time on their calendar, you're not slamming yourself down your throat, but you're talking about commonality, interests, and then you start educating them on your value. That's how I work with my clients, but using the tool to make efficiencies, getting basic template cadences that you can customize per the person or per the persona, And how do you create those efficiencies so that you can integrate those activities and execute right into your calendar, your content, everything? And that's, I think, the way to overcome some of the fear in asking people to really build in social engagement into their selling and their roles.
Tom, what do you think about that? As our
Well,
resident neophyte.
yeah, as a resident, we were just talking about phone call, or, the typical message, hey, can I have a 15-minute discovery call, right? That you get as soon as you get the connection. Another thing I've learned, it's not that I didn't know this, but I think it's been reinforced by some of the stuff I've learned on social. I personally don't want a call. I want a conversation or a communication with a qualified, or qualified prospect or opportunity, right? I would love to have a conversation with somebody who is really interested in what we do, like whether it's our software or the service or whatever it is, because I know I can have a meaningful conversation with them. And whether they buy from me or not, I've helped them, and they may refer me somewhere down the line or whatever. So I've actually built a true connection. I don't want a phone call that is not with a qualified, prospect or a qualified situation, because I have to prepare for that phone call, right? And a lot of times, and I see this often, not only do you do the phone call, which takes amount of time, but then, you kind of know at the end of the phone call, they're not really all that qualified, but you continue the process, right? And then you end up, well, I got to follow up, and then I've got to send more information. And you now start spending a whole lot of time on something that's not likely going to yield a result. So it's really, I think changing the mindset of, oh, I got a phone call. No, change the mindset as I have an opportunity to have a conversation with
Right.
somebody who is really potentially qualified of how I can help them. That's the win. The win is not the phone call. And again, that goes back to the sort of
Right.
lead generation thing. Well, I got a name. I got a this, I got a that. Okay. That's actually, that can end up drowning you, and you're really not going to get a result. So yeah,
That's
very,
boiling the ocean, Tom. That's trying
yeah.
to boil the ocean.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, would you rather have 10 calls a day, or would you rather have 3 qualified communications a day? Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just look at it that way, because any communication or call you have, if it's with the right person, there is going to be follow-up. There's going to be other things, other work for you that's going to be required to continue that down the road. So you have to budget that into your time and whatever.
But they also might start reading your posts that are going
Sure.
to have even more valuable content, how to help them.
Sure.
So, I always tell my clients, you don't want to be a one-hit wonder. You want to be in it for the long term and show your value and your expertise. And one thing I'll say, it's not just salespeople. I think every corporation should have people that are socially active in every department, because people want to work with smart people. And you have smart people in finance, you have smart people in education, you have smart people everywhere. Why not have them be amplifying your brand in a positive way, and viewers seeing that you have really smart people all across your organization?
And I would push it. It's not even just the smart factor, right? Let's take this practical for companies. If you're in a C-suite and you're a business owner, how much money do you spend by different people on your team getting on planes, going to clients, taking them out to dinner, doing the wine and dine, or doing your annual event where you bring clients in and all that? Why do we do all that? To solidify relationships, right? What if you could do that simultaneously in a social manner where, as Susan was saying, you have people in every department that are authentically sharing information online. And it's not just, let me tell you about our company. In fact, let's not do much of that. But it's, hey, this is what's going on. These are the charity events our company is working on. Or, hey, these are my thoughts. This is what I learned about working from home. That type of content is what people really engage with. But the bottom line, what it's doing is it's solidifying relationships. And we all need, for me as in sales, it was always about being known, liked, and trusted. And I think in the modern era, I call it the LTR now. You got to be liked, you got to be trusted, but you got to be remembered. And where the value, I think, of social is the same activities that help you over the long term are the exact same activities that help you with a targeted prospect today.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
What do you guys think? And
No,
I'm going to do a little quick shout out to Tara. Tara, thank you for joining us
Thanks,
today and jumping in and commenting and adding to the conversation.
Yeah. Sorry, Brandon, what was your question again?
Well, I just love for you. I'm sorry. I know. Really, what are your thoughts around that as the use case around social and some of the misperceptions of it?
Yeah, well, to your point, right? The same thing. You're doing the same thing to get an immediate result as well as something down the road. And this is also something else I'm learning. I haven't totally experienced it yet, but I can see it happening. And I think there's a hockey stick sort of trajectory that can start to occur over time just by doing, like you said, if I'm doing the things day to day that may be bringing me good conversations and building my know, like, and trust, or my relevance, or remembering, and all the things that you've talked about, that may get me something right today. But if I keep doing that consistently, it starts to hockey stick over time, because that's the beauty of social. It's not linear, right? It's not just like, okay, I talked to you, and then which is, phone calls or whatever, or even email is kind of a linear function. I either go from here and I send 10,000, but I can do whatever on social, and now it starts to reach out to others. It starts to get other sort of that exponential side effect, and then it starts to really, really take off. I'm very interested to see that start to develop, and then how you use that to because there's obviously, if you're a salesperson, there's only so many prospects and so many phone calls and so many clients that you can deal with on a daily basis. So how do you use that then to actually build an organization and build a team and all of that kind of stuff, which is a whole nother interesting area that I'm looking forward to seeing. But I do think there's that exponential hockey stick opportunity.
Susan, will you respond to that? Because I think, and you had just said it, but I think it's worth repeating, is your system that you talk about, that you like to encourage people to, it also includes a cadence of direct message. Like yesterday, we talked about the one-to-many to the one-to-one to the one-to-one to one-to-many simultaneously. Will you share how that works? I think it really plays into what Tom was just saying.
Sure. So salespeople that work at a company can't be experts in everything, right? So building these cadences, I advocate that they get with their product teams, they get with their SMEs, their subject matter experts, and they build out some templates that are okay because of mutual interest in sales, like mine, sales readiness, and using social to create relationships and opportunity. I'd like to be part of your network, right? And then the second one, if they do connect, and I'm pretty fortunate, a lot of people connect, I send them an audio message from my app saying, just thanks so much for being, connecting with me. I'm delighted to be part of your network. And then the next thing I do is a day or two later is just a little piece of content around, hey, I post around content around this social engagement and everything. If you're interested, go to my personal hashtag and you can see my posts and maybe get some tips and tricks. So I do believe in reaching out with synergy and creating these. The same thing with a product. If you're trying to approach and topic of a problem, use case or problem that they're trying to solve, whether it's fraud or whatever, don't try to jam it down their throat, but work with your industry experts and ever to write these templates, these cadences, as we call them, using the right words, the right approach, and then build that relationship as you go forward, utilizing content that is directly related to problems they are experiencing. And
Yeah.
too many times I have clients say to me, well, I have 5,000 connections. I'm like, so what? How often do you engage with each one of them? Oh, I don't do that. Well, download your connections list in an Excel spreadsheet, take a look at it, start to prioritize it, utilize it as a tool. Who
Put them
should
in
you be
funnel
connecting
amplified.
with on a regular basis, right? Or use funnel amplified.
Right.
So I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent there. I get
That's
stuck in the
good,
weeds.
because but I think what we keep saying, and I think it's really important for people to understand, is social media is, yes, it's a long-term strategy, but it's a now strategy too. You can use targeted activities that are going to help you in the long term. But when you focus them, you go engage with a specific prospect who's on your named list 3, 4, 5 times over the next 2 weeks before you send a connection request. And all of a sudden you're getting 200-300% more accepted connection requests. Well, that's a huge win. And it's not slowing you down. Yeah, you're just changing the chronological order of the activities that you're doing. And then you're adding in cadences of, like Susan, I said, add value, add value, add value, work with your product team, work with whatever. What type of content can we share with them that's going to help them? It's not asking for a meeting, but giving. Gary Vee's got that great book, Ask, or Jab, 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 Right Hook, which is, and Dave Luark, one of our clients, always says, you can't go make withdraw money out of the bank unless you put enough deposits in. And it's the same thing with our customers. Tom, I want to start summarizing this up and landing this plane. Susan, before we go, I would love for you to talk a little bit about those audio notes. But Tom, I want to give you an opportunity to finish this up, hand to Susan, and be done.
Well, it's like I said, it's been I'm excited on this journey, right? I'm excited to be continuing to learn on this journey. And I feel like I'm an interesting case study because I have, almost 30 years in business. I've been in sales, marketing, run businesses, and so forth. So I've done a lot of the things that we're now doing socially, as we just talked about, offline, if you will, or less than social. But as a tech guy and just really interested in all of the analytics and everything that goes with everything, it's been a fun process to continue to watch along the way. And I think the reason I even bring this up is if somebody's hesitant to do this because of all the work and I don't have time or whatever, is look at it as kind of almost like a fun thing. Like it's a game. It's like, it's something you can track and see the results and learn from, as Brandon, we were saying yesterday, it's kind of like golf, right? Some days, some days you go out and play golf and it's like, oh my God, it was the greatest day ever. And then the next day you go play and you're like, why do did I just go backwards 3 years? And the same is true in this whole social journey and digital influence journey. But what I'm trying to do is embrace it, learn from it, and enjoy it. And I think if you do that and you take that mentality, it'll make it that much more fun and interesting as you go along.
Yeah. Rob's joining us with that same analogy about it being like the banking system. You can't just make withdrawals. You got to make deposits. And I love my other book here I'm reading at the same time as, Chris Tuff, his book on Save Your Ass. And I love what he says is, don't be an asshole. Don't ask. Nobody likes an asshole. So shout out to Chris. Rob, thanks for joining us today and all your comments. Really appreciate it. Susan, can you do 2 things to wrap us up? One, share a little bit. You mentioned the audio note. Can you tell everybody what that is and explain a little bit more or elaborate on how you use it? And then summarize us and end us. How's that?
Oh, I'll let you summarize us. But I think that to differentiate yourself in any way you can is important. And every time someone connects with me, I pull out my LinkedIn app on my phone, and you can just hit the little microphone and hold down the blue button and record a message. And I say, thank you. Very briefly, I'm delighted. Thank you for allowing me into your network, because they've made that decision. And then I say, have a great day. And they get my voice. They hear my intonation. They hear that I'm passionate about being a connection. I can't tell you how many people reply back, say, that's the first time I've ever gotten a voice message on LinkedIn. And it differentiates you. It proves that you're social savvy, and it humanizes you to the person, which I think is the biggest benefit, besides having a huge info-packed, robust profile.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tag along with you on that and just say, the nice thing about the audio notes right now is they're still new. And as we know, every tool that LinkedIn comes out with eventually gets saturated. But right now, today, if you start using the audio notes, you're one of very, small percentage of people that are even using it, and you can really stand out just by using a new feature.
Oh, and one last tip, if I can.
Of course.
Every one of you should create your own personal hashtag, because LinkedIn is known for timing out. You can put 4 or 5 things on your featured section, but when I post everything I post, I have my personal hashtag. People can click on it and go to a whole archive. They can just scroll and see my posts, see my tips, and it's there in one place. So again, I'm all about efficiencies, doing it once, using it numerous times. So create your own personal hashtag. You won't be sorry you did.
Tom, you and I have got a task of creating our own.
Yeah, I've got some work to do today.
Yeah. I've used hashtag social prospecting as my personal hashtag because nobody else is using it, and I wanted to own that. And I can tell everybody, if you search hashtag social prospecting, every one of my posts is there. But I like what you do, Susan, because you bring your name into it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a personal, right? It's not like your business page hashtag, it's your personal hashtag.
Yeah.
So
and stuff times out so quickly on LinkedIn. I have people saying, I was searching for that post you wrote on this. And I'm like, well, just go to my personal hashtag and scroll down, find it.
Yeah. Or I even say, well, go to my content hub. Here's my link. And we've got sections there as well. So, well, everybody, thank you so much. Tom and Susan, thank you so much for sharing your insights, your wisdom, and your experiences, which I think is the thing that I want everybody to understand, is that we're all learning, we're all growing. And one of the biggest obstacles for everybody with social is just getting over that fear of putting yourself out there. And Tom, is it worth it putting yourself out there?
So far, so good.
Susan, is it worth it putting yourself
out there? I'm obsessed.
I'm
obsessed with
and
it.
How many, Susan, how many posts have you done where somebody has disagreed with you or said something, contrary?
No.
None
Not
at
yet.
all? Oh, see,
Not
I
yet.
have them.
Not yet.
And I like it because it creates conversation. Right. And my point of it is, for everybody, is that I survived. I survived. Yeah. People didn't like my post, or a post didn't get as much engagement as I had hoped. I still survived. So if I can survive,
verbally, I have to fight with some of my clients. I have to not fight, but I have to discuss strongly that, this is the course that I believe in, but not to my post, thank God, yet.
Yeah, very cool. Well, everybody, again, whether you're on the podcast, you're at YouTube, wherever, this was episode 39, I believe, and cranking our way, really excited to get to 50. So everybody, thank you so much for joining. Share the show with your friends, for anybody that can find value with it. Connect with us. Tom, where do people find you?
Well, I don't have a hashtag, so I feel, a little naked here. So no, until I get my hashtag worked out, my LinkedIn profile is tburton5350. So Tom Burton, but there's a lot of Tom Burton. So it's tburton5350. My book, if you want to learn more about that, is therevenuezone.com. And my software company, leadsmarttech.com, which we have a pretty unique CRM that aligns with a lot of the things we just talked about today. So those are where you can find me. And the next time I'm on here, I am going to have a quick butt hashtag.
That's going to be the first question we ask
That's
you.
right.
And
That's right.
That's right.
Susan, of course, is hashtag socially Susan
Yeah.
Berger.
Yep.
You can find her there. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks,
Appreciate
everybody.
you.
Have a
And
good weekend.
a
Bye.
wonderful day.